Okay, next video, we're going to click into the DFAS website to the page that presents the eligibility rules, the eligibility criteria to the public. The section is under spouse and children. It says an eligible dependent child under the plan must be your legal child under the age of 18, if older than 18, enrolled in, et cetera, unmarried. Then we have a separate paragraph slash section for incapacitated or disabled children. Incapacitated or disabled children are eligible, and we can see that this is clearly a separate group than this because the age range the disability must have existed before the 18th birthday or 21st, 22nd. The child was pursuing a full-time course of study, whereas this one ends at age 18 or 22. And your legal child only applies to dependent children, believe it or not. So for a dependent child to be covered, it has to be the person's legal child. Duh. You might think that that incapacitated or disabled children would have to be a legal child of the veteran as well, but believe it or not, that's not the case. A veteran can designate a beneficiary who's a niece, nephew, or natural person of interest as the beneficiary if they're incapacitated or disabled. And that's down the page. So anyway, the point is that these three cannot apply to this paragraph here. So to say this one applies to this paragraph is a stretch, to put it mildly, and especially since it's indented. These are indented bullet points, so obviously this doesn't apply here. Now, that being stated, there could be somewhere else on this page or in another page that says marriage disqualifies incapacitated or disabled children. There isn't. And I've made a number of videos on the website that I made about this that go into that in detail, and I can send you the URL to that if you want. Suffice it to say that this is all veterans have to go on as far as eligibility criteria for this in this situation. So that clearly does not disqualify disabled persons upon marriage. And that is different than the rule that they invoke after the veteran has passed away, which is, where is it now? Okay, this is the accounting manual or accounting, whatever you call it. And the letters that have been sent to us that are in response to asking for what's the justification for the denial, because we don't read this as disqualifying incapacitated or disabled children upon marriage. So what is the rationale for that? They refer to this accounting manual essentially, and this accounting manual is different. It applies marriage out here. So a child is an eligible beneficiary only if the child is one, unmarried, and they and against each one of these things, C being incapable of self-support. So as we can see, this inverts marriage to the outside and applies it to everything, versus this, which has marriage on the inside as an indented bullet point. So we'll go back to my letter. That's the basic point, is that the rules given to the public are different on this point than this rule, which is used after the veteran has died to disqualify a incapacitated disabled person if they're married. So that's the crux of that case. And if I'm dealing with DFAS directly, or somebody at my level is dealing with DFAS directly, they just say, this is the rule. This is the rule, end of story. Whereas someone with authority, like Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, could, I think, put a little pressure on them to explain why it's okay, or please explain yourself, given that this is what you tell the public is different than the actual decision. Please explain. And when the request to please explain comes from someone authoritative like Congresswoman Schakowsky, it'll carry a little bit more weight than if it's coming from a member of the general public.